This presentation is to accompany the book Consumer Behavior, a Primer by Gail. Most of the decisions consumers make in the marketplace are of a low involvement nature. With low involvement decisions, consumers have no intention or desire to put forth effort or time to gather, process, and analyze information about the alternative brands. What consumers do know about brands is most likely learned in an unintentional, inattentive, non-purposeful, incidental manner such as occurs when watching TV. In low involvement learning, consumers record information somewhat like a tape recorder or video camera, with no censorship, editing, embellishments, or critical analysis. For low involvement products, a marketing strategy is to select a few pieces of relevant information that identifies a product and highlight the product's most important distinctive characteristics. Then marketers want to make the information sticky by using logos, spokespersons, jingles. Finally, repeat, repeat, repeat to plant the information in memory. Varying the theme of the advertisements will lessen wear out. Consumers have a head full of product information learned in this "I don't care, I didn't intend to learn" manner. Here, prove it to yourself. Do you know these logos? I'll wait while you try to identify the brands. You were probably able to identify most of the brands. The one that you might not have known is Procter & Gamble because they don't display it much. This parody of logos is funny, only because you know the real logos, which, of course, you never really intended to know. The logos for Starbucks and Nike are so well known that they no longer need to be accompanied by the company's name. You know these jingles?
Woohoo!
That's the Pillsbury Doughboy.
They're great!
That was Tony the Tiger. That's Maxwell House Coffee. Depending upon your age, you may not know Tony the Tiger or Maxwell House Coffee. They are from a previous era. In low involvement decision making, out of sight is out of mind. Visibility is critical. If tomato soup is a fast-selling favorite, put it on the bottom shelf. Place the new soup at eye level. This shelf placement increases the chance that consumers will see the new soup, which is at eye level, as they search for the tomato soup, which is at the bottom. It increases the likelihood that consumers will try the new soup. In the United States, we read from left to right. So placing the larger size product to the right of the smaller size product increases the chance that consumers will see and buy the larger size. With low involvement products, out of sight is out of mind. This makes shelf space in retail outlets the most expensive real estate in town. Retailers ask manufacturers to pay a fee called slotting fees for retail shelf space. An accounting rule change gives a one-time look at what companies pay for shelf space. Accounting practices normally bundle slotting fees as promotional costs. With high involvement decisions, consumers will take the time to gather information and consult available sources. They will analyze the information and commit the time and effort to deliberate and weigh the alternatives before making a decision.
Retailers had to find a way to decide what new items to put on the shelf.
But shouldn't the grocer taste the product and make a decision on what's the best quality or what's the best price for his consumers?
I'm sure they do that. I'm sure they do their own market studies.
Do they do that?
That's my understanding.
But that's not at all been the experience of lots of small entrepreneurs, like Scott Galt of Georgia.
Wow.
Gault has won award after award for the barbecue sauce he spent 10 years perfecting in his own kitchen, without all the gums and fillers used to thicken most sauces.
It's the real thing.
But after using some $200,000 in family money to go into business, Gault got a rude awakening at almost every grocery store where he took his sauce.
Truth is we were told on some interviews that we didn't even need to show them the product, just how much money did we have.
They didn't want to taste your sauce. They just wanted to know how much money you had to buy your way onto the shelf.
Exactly.
To see for ourselves how it works, 2020 asked Gault to make the rounds of a few grocery stores in New York with hidden cameras along. The grocery industry has maintained publicly that slotting fees are used just to cover expenses, and that in fact, selecting products is a sophisticated process involving a lot more than just slotting fees. But behind the scenes, most of what Scott Gault heard was slotting fees. Our first stop was Grand Union, one of the stores that wouldn't tell us if it demands slotting fees.
You got any kind of opening deal?
Well, I need to know what it's going to take to do business with you.
We usually look for $5 grand an item.
Okay.
And
Now, is that a slotting fee?
yeah.
Okay.
Later, after Gault asked the buyer if he wanted to taste the sauce, the buyer seemed surprised.
People make presentations that don't even bring the product.
Yeah. Well, we just,
This was the scene in the buying office of the huge Waldbaum store, owned by A&P, which told us it does not, as a policy, require slotting fees, and that no one can just buy their way in. The buyer did agree to taste the sauce.
Tastes like barbecue sauce.
But the only thing really on the table was the cost of a slot.
What are you guys offering to get in? Warehouse.
Well, that's just it. I'm here trying to find out what it's going to take to get in.
To get in is between $8,000 and $10,000 a slot.
Okay.
And
That's per item.
per item.
Does everybody pay this slotting fees?
Everybody does.
Everybody
We don't
pays.
take anything in for nothing unless
But from the big down.
from the big down. No, everybody pays to get it, whether that's Kellogg's, Del Monte. We don't take anything in for nothing. The only person who doesn't pay slotting fees is Procter & Gamble.
Apparently because Procter & Gamble is so big and established and spends so much money on advertising.
Thank you so much.
Again, what Scott Gault found in our investigation was all perfectly legal, according to the Federal Trade Commission, all perfectly awful for someone trying to break in and compete in the American food business.
if you got big dollars, you can go. If you don't, you can't, and it's very disappointing.
This is only a business now for the big guys, then.
It seems to be. They've got a lock on the market.
My job as a federal antitrust official is not to require supermarkets to taste barbecue sauce. The question is, do these slotting allowances really drive prices up for consumers? If they don't, and I'm saying I don't see any evidence that they do, although we're open to looking at it, then I'm not sure there's a problem.
But once again, while that may be what the FTC heard from the grocery industry, it ignores what the grocery manufacturers say, that much of the cost of slotting fees are paid by consumers in the form of higher prices at checkout. In the case of Frookies, Richard Worth says not every store charges him slotting fees, but they often stock his cookies in the less desirable health food aisle, which is where we found them at the store he took us. But in most cases, Worth does have to pay, and he says he knows to the penny what slotting fees add to the cost of a $2.29 box of Frookies.
My product could be 50 cents less a box at retail. Isn't that something?
50 cents less a box.
50 cents less.
And that's just for Frookies. When it's all added up, slotting fees, according to one respected marketing expert, add several $100s a year to the cost of groceries for the average American family.
And there's something else we found in our 2020 investigation. With so much money in play and the government's blessing for the principle of paying for shelf space, there's been a rash of corruption in the grocery business. Again, further driving up prices.
The FBI has been investigating what's been going on at least 2 big regional grocery chains, including Harvest Foods in Arkansas, which says it had to turn in its own chief executive.
It was several $100,000.
Steve LaFrance is one of a number of distributors who say they were forced to pay off to get their products into Harvest Foods, passing on the cost to consumers.
In my mind, it's cut and dry. Do it or you lose it all.
You had to raise your price.
Yes.
To meet these demands.
Yes.
And they said, go ahead.
Yes.
The former top man of Harvest Foods, Donald Pennington, once considered a rising star in the grocery industry, has now pleaded not guilty to charges he demanded hundreds of thousands in such bribes, his own personal slotting fees from distributors who wanted shelf space. And in fact, in our own undercover investigation, barbecue sauce man Scott Galt had it suggested to him that more was involved than just slotting fees paid to the store. At one point, a visiting food distributor gave Galt some insider's advice about taking care of the retailer.
You know, there's so much to overcome. You got price, you know what I mean? You got quality you got to maintain, you know?
Yeah.
And you got the retailer that you got to, you know, you got to take care of him, you know what I mean? Otherwise, you're not going to get there. Yeah. That's the key.
The distributor later declined to be interviewed on camera, but told us that by taking care of the retailer, he meant nothing underhanded, but only legal slotting fees.
This advertisement recognizes that buying a car is a high involvement decision for most consumers. Consumers will engage in a decision process that consider many features and models before making a decision. Knowledgeable, professional, and respectful sales representatives are a must. Definitely, self-serve will not do.